If you love noise and chaos, then don't watch this video. But if you prefer peace and productivity, then this is for you. In this video, we're going to talk about the biggest friction to focus for creators, how it can make it harder for some of you to find your focus and flow, the surprising types of sensitivities that some creators have, why this problem keeps you from peak performance, and some unexpected strategies for reducing it and enhancing focus. So let's talk about the problem, noise. But first, do you remember that scene from Clockwork Orange at the end where they're blasting the music in the room and it drives him insane?
The music coming up from the floor.
Turn it off! Please, turn it off!
So there's a large portion of the population that suffer from sensitivities to sound, and I think they're underserved. Here's a list of some examples of disturbing sounds in an urban environment. Leaf blowers, lawn mowers, dogs barking, your neighbor playing loud music. One of the worst offenders of all will land with you digital nomads or people who work remotely. How about being at a campground and people are running their generators? In fact, that very thing happened on a recent trip while we were traveling in our tiny trailer. We were at a campground and this guy was blasting his generator. It was the worst ever. Check this out. Doing an evening walk through the campground here, and there's this guy running a generator. It's so annoying. Look at that, he's just sitting there. Whether you're a digital nomad or a work-from-home dad, these disturbing sounds can negatively affect your focus and productivity. If you don't think they are on the conscious level, I guarantee you they are affecting your nervous system on a subconscious level. Content creators, people like you and me, we make our livings through online business and personal branding. And those offenders on that list, they steal our time and our energy. So I mentioned our nervous system. I also want to bring into this conversation the subject of mental health, because these sensitivities are affecting a large portion of the population. I'm one of them, maybe you are too. So right now, I want to give you a quick list of some definitions and classifications that encompass this spectrum of sensitivity. The first one you might have heard of, somebody might be hypersensitive. Well, there's a term for that, it's just called hypersensitivity. And what that means is an increased or excessive sensitivity to physical or sensory stimuli such as sound, light, touch, and taste. It can cause discomfort or distress, and it's often associated with certain mental health disorders. The second one is called misophonia, and this is a new term for me. I was describing some of my sensitivities to sound to someone else, and they said, well, there's a term for that. And I was actually pretty relieved to hear that, to know that other people are affected in the same way that I am. So let me go ahead and read you the definition of misophonia. This is an extreme sensitivity and strong negative emotional and physiological reaction to specific sounds, typically repetitive and relatively soft ones like chewing, breathing, or tapping. This one can actually be quite funny because something that I'm sensitive to is the sound of other people chewing. Ironically, not the sound of my own chewing, but this is a funny one, and I see some memes of people posting about this online. Their partners chewing too loudly, it bothers them. It's actually quite funny, but when it's not funny is when it gets to the point of like completely distracting to where you can't be around it. Then it can become kind of a problem. But the third one is called sensory processing disorder. It's a condition where the brain has trouble receiving and responding to information that comes in through the senses. This can cause individuals to have difficulties with certain sensory stimuli, leading to problems with motor skills and other areas of functioning. Those are just the top 3 that I want to mention for now in this video. I do have other examples if you want to learn more about other types of sensitivities in my newsletter. You can find that through the link in the description. But listen, these aren't just minor annoyances for some people. They can be a major barrier to success. But if none of these are affecting you, then I guarantee that someone you know in your degrees of circles is affected in some of these ways. And I want to share these with you so you can build more empathy for them, if not for yourself. And it is directly correlated with nervous system issues, which can lead to mental health issues. So because of some of these negative influences, it has a direct impact on some people's ability to focus and to be productive, which equates to lost time, lost money, and reduced energy. Some people deal with this stress by numbing through self-medication. I'm talking about alcohol addiction or whatever it is, and that was me for years. But coping through addictive behaviors is not an option. Now, I actually want to share with you a couple of personal experiences in my life that'll add a nice layer of context to this conversation. The first one is I was a professional musician. I started playing bass when I was 14, and I played for years. I trained my ears to be able to read in between the lines and go between the notes. And on one hand, it's just beyond amazing to be able to train our ears in that way, to be hypersensitive to sound. But I don't know how to turn it off. But it's still a blessing and a curse, because if you think about it, life is music. Everything we hear is melody and rhythm. We're singing our conversations. Everything we say is a note, and it has its place in time and space, so there's rhythm. And when we hear repetitive sounds in our environment, think of that list, like a dog barking, it's punctuations, or a leaf blower, it's a steady sound. I hear all those things, and it's like getting a bad song stuck in your head. You ever go into a grocery store and they're playing some bad music? Well, when that happens to me now, I just can't even stand it. I actually find it quite offensive that you go into a public place and they disrespect you by playing songs from decades ago, songs that don't have any relevance. They're plastic, they're pop, they're made to subconsciously affect the mood, to entrain you into becoming brainwashed and like zombified. So when these sounds are happening to me or someone else maybe that you know, it's like getting a bad song stuck in your head. It's very distracting, and it just reduces that focus, flow, productivity, mood, nervous system, mental health, finances, just everything in life. It's actually quite a big deal. Okay, so music was the first thing. The second thing in my life that had a big impact, I spent actually many times over the years going into remote wilderness environments for extended periods of time. I would actually have some friends drive me up into the mountains and drop me off, and I wouldn't bring food because I would fast, because I just wanted to be connecting with wild nature alone with no distractions. I would go up to a spring and just drink water from the fresh spring and be in nature for anywhere from 3 to 6 days before hitchhiking back into town. It was actually pretty amazing, and I'm super grateful I did. But when you're in a situation like that, you become sort of a scout. Think of our ancestors. They're listening to your own footsteps, the leaves under your foot, the wind blowing through the pine needles of tall trees. And as night falls, you're of course listening for the sounds of bears or wildcats, or those experiences trained my ears to hear everything. So being a professional musician, studying music, and being sort of a scout, my ears have been thoroughly trained to hear things. And so I'm super grateful for it, but the shadow side is now I don't know how to turn it off. So I had to find effective strategies to cope and deal with the situation of the soundscapes that I'm in these urban environments. So now I want to share some simple strategies with you that I've found to help with all these situations. The first one is noise canceling earbuds. I'm an Apple guy, so I have these AirPods. And I'm sure you know how they work. They're super simple. You just pop them into your ears and then they just connect automatically. I do not leave home without these. They are in my pocket at all times. The second one that has been my go-to over the last few weeks is actually earmuffs. I cannot recommend these enough. These are made for shooting. I got them at an outdoor store. You pop these on and it immediately just dampens, pretty much eliminates all the sound around you. And these are actually quite comfortable. You can find the link for these and everything else in the description. So if you got your AirPods in, or just maybe music playing on your Sonos speakers around your house, there's a lot of cool apps. Many of them you've probably heard of before, but they play white noise. What that's gonna do is just sort of raise a little bit of an ambient noise that's nice, whether it's crickets or river flowing. You just bring that up and it's all the external sounds are gonna kind of get lost within that white noise. White noise was developed in communications where they're trying to mask communications from other people and sounds around them. Another tip on the app front is an app called Brain FM. That's been my go-to app recently. It's sort of a science-based sound. They infuse binaural beats for brainwave entrainment with music that's actually good. And it's designed to help you with focus, flow state, productivity, when you really want to dial in a deep work session. Those are just some of the top strategies that I have for you and that I do every day. I have more examples that you can check out, again, in my newsletter, which goes out bi-monthly on every other Wednesday morning. You can find the link for that in the description. So in the grand scheme of things, we're going to need some action steps to get from point A to point B if we want to level up our lifestyles. That's what I'm going to talk about now. So if your current living situation is less than excellent, then you're going to need to block out at least a little bit of time to look at and refine your goals and develop an action plan to get there from here. So you're gonna, in a way, reverse engineer the big picture, what you really want, where you want to live, your dream home and all that, and just work back to quarterly, monthly, weekly, or even daily in your calendar to what do I need to do today to get there. So to effectively deal with stressful situations or disturbing sounds that are affecting your livelihood, you need a plan, and indulging in vices is not an option. That's the path that I took. For 22 years, I drank alcohol almost every day. And now the further I get into sobriety, a year now, I'm realizing just how much of my coping behavior was because of the stressful environments that I was being exposed to. So I want to give you a personal example. I'm just going to share with you my big picture goal and ambition. The first thing is to make a lot of money. I was born into poverty. I made a lot of poor choices in my life. And so I've always been broke, got myself into a little bit of debt. So now that I'm sober, have a kid and a family, getting my act together, the first thing I got to do is creating this content, networking with other people, and start to build up my finances so I can actually achieve a home that is at least 2 miles from anyone. This is a beautiful vision for me. It's something I think about every day. I just want to be immersed in nature and to ease my nervous system. That's a really important thing, is just to attune our frequency, because we're electromagnetic beings. And in this modern industrial urban civilization that we're in, we're constantly exposed to electrosmog, Wi-Fi, sirens, advertisements. All of the city stress has an effect on our nervous system. And if we're unaware of it on the conscious level, it's affecting us subconsciously. And what that means is that if you're adjusting to the pace and frequency of modern civilization, I actually would propose to you that you might have more of a problem than you imagine, because if all of this stuff is stressing me out and many people as well, I don't claim to be well adjusted to this environment. And that's why I'm making it a priority to distance myself from these frequencies and these stressors so I can return my nervous system and mental health and physical health actually to a more natural state. So in these days, this is all I do. I'm oriented toward taking action steps to achieve my goal. And that's why I want to share this with you. Is because if you're affected by some of these sensitivities, you'll be able to relate and feel like seen and heard and validated. Or you can have more empathy for a large portion of the population that is affected. And furthermore, this is all about self-awareness, knowing our boundaries and limits, what's good for us, and then doing something about that. But hey, enough about me. I want to hear from you. Share with me your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Check out the link in the description to head on over to my newsletter. The Whipple Effect comes out twice a month. It's all about addiction recovery and holistic productivity for men. Subscribe to this channel if you dig what I'm saying. And if you want to learn more about holistic productivity and how it can help you in your life, check out this video here. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for your time and attention. I'll see you in the next video.